Happy Friday and welcome to Career Launch Live. This is the final episode of this season, and I could not be more thrilled to have my good friend Kay with me to discuss ethics and integrity in business messaging. Welcome, Kay.
Hi. Oh my God, we finally made it. We finally made it here.
We had our typical tech issues that only happened between Kay and I this morning.
Right. Oh my God. But thank
We
you
did.
for the opportunity to come onto the show and talk about integrity. This is a really, really important topic.
Yes.
And unfortunately it's been missed in the industry, right? And so I'm so glad we're
Yeah.
talking about this today.
I know, me too. And I was like, when I came up with this topic, you were immediately the person in my mind because we've had, woo, integrity. Isn't that good to know that someone thinks you have integrity? But seriously, this is something that's being completely missed. And it's just people are forgetting to basically have manners, is how I see this. Like, it's really not that hard, I feel like,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
and it's so funny because you talk about manners, right? And you think it's the basic things, right? This is what you're taught from a really young age. But as you get older, I just feel like it just tends to disappear, right? Even the
Yeah.
thank you pleases disappear.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. But that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. So, right off the bat, first of all, I'm so sorry. Introduce yourself to those people who don't know the awesome that is you. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Kay Suthar. I'm based in London, UK, and actually have a podcast agency where I help people gain more visibility globally with their business, their brand, and all that good stuff, making sure that we do it with integrity. Yeah.
Yes, that last part. So, in your business, because this is exactly what you do every day of your life, well, maybe not every day, but a lot of days of your life, what are some of the things that you see missing most in business communication as it pertains to integrity? What are the holes that you're witnessing?
Okay, so there's two different parts, right? There's making sure you have integrity with your team, right? And also with your clients. Okay. People tend to miss that there's two parts. And so, regards to my team, making sure that you're getting the best out of them. And the only way to do that is to make sure you speak with them, you communicate with them, and you're completely straight with where your vision is going, where your goal is going, what's happening, and also making sure that the doors are open in case they need to speak with you because something isn't working. Right? The minute
That
you sure, yeah, that's where it becomes a problem within your business. So making sure the doors are open there.
and
And then
how real quick, I want to pause on that because how do you I know what I teach on this subject, but how do you make sure that people know that not only the doors are open, but that they'll actually be heard and that their opinion is valued?
okay, so one skill that I learned, right, is one of the things that people have difficulties the most, where they say they hire people and they're not using their initiative. Then they're not, they keep coming to me about every little thing. Well, maybe that's because you're not giving the opportunity for them to voice their opinion and their thoughts, right? And so, when what I started doing is when my team started coming to me about every little thing, I gave them the opportunity to make a choice on what would be the best decision or the solution. And so they'll say to me, okay, we started working on your social media, but it's not allowing us to schedule on this platform or that platform. And so I'll say, but what do you think is the best solution? I'm not going to tell them. I already know what it is. I want them to come up with what the best solution is and just walk them through. And if they say, well, we think X, Y, and Z, well, why is that? What would be the consequences if we do it this way and not that way? And so it's training them and letting them know that they've been listened to and also allowing them to actually come up with different ideas themselves. The minute you do that for all the different reasons they come to you about, that's when they'll start going ahead and being like, oh, I can figure this out myself. I don't need to speak with right?
Right, yeah, I can do it. I have the autonomy to do it myself because that's a lot of it. We have not been taught that we're allowed to adult in our
Yeah,
jobs. We've
right.
not. We've been taught that you have to ask permission, and we're still like being treated like we're kindergartners, you know. And it's just not very productive. It's not a productive way of being. So training them, but then the other cool thing that comes from that in my experience is then that you might actually learn something from them. They might actually have an idea that you're like, oh heck, yeah,
right?
that'll work. Like that's the thing.
Fact that I'm no longer their boss, they're my bosses. They tell me what I need to do and keep me accountable, which is what we want as business owners, right? Like when you're in that role in managerial or executive, whatever it is, you want your team to be able to deal with and take over the tasks that you don't need to be dealing with, right? So
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely. We have to trust our team, which is also ultimately trusting ourselves, right? But when it comes to communicating that to them, it's important that they know that we trust them. And I think asking them questions and giving them a lot of autonomy is a big piece of that. There's another piece though that I think a lot of companies miss, and I talk about this stuff all the time, which is the inclusion piece in
yeah,
communication. And people miss that. So number one, people communicate, just every human communicates differently and
yeah,
receives communication differently based on their own experiences and their own mindset. So it's very important to keep that in mind when you're communicating, that what you're saying makes perfect sense to you, but is that going to reach the ears of the other human, whether it's client, coworker, and team member, whatever it is. How is that going to hit there? So, what are some of the things that you do to make sure that the things coming out of your mouth are received the way that you want them to be?
I just ask them questions and ask them for feedback. Does what I said make sense? Right? This is what my vision is. This is what I'm looking to do. Does any of that make sense to you? If they say yes, it does, then fantastic. If it doesn't, then they know they've got space to say, well, no, that doesn't make any sense. Can you clear that up? What about X, Y, and Z? Right?
Right,
And so it's about giving them the space to be able to give their opinions, that they know it's a safe space, that they're not going to get their head bitten off, right? They're not going to be told, no, you're wrong, I'm right. That's not going to happen.
right,
And so the biggest thing that I've learned with the team is you talk about inclusion, or making the effort to be part of what's going on in their personal life. What's happening at home? What's happening with your kids? Who are your kids? How old are your kids? What are they doing? Right? Like, and so when you kind of, reach out to your team and be like, oh yeah, I know that, your kid, I don't know, had an accident in the playground. How is he doing? Right? Little
right,
things like that really go a long way, and you're including yourself in their personal lives, not just in business lives. Then they realize, okay, this person actually cares. Then guess what happens? They then stick around. They don't disappear or go away. They stick around,
and we
right?
don't want people disappearing. That's like,
Poof, right?
gone, just gone. But you know what though? I like to take this because number one, I like to be that type of leader that if I can tell that somebody wants a personal connection, I give that to them because that's my job as a leader, is to take care of this human and to make them feel welcome. But there's another type of human at work that doesn't want that very specifically wants to come in, do their job, be great at it, and then go away and leave all of that there. And I like to give space to that too. So paying attention to who the humans are on your team and not expecting them all to be the same and offering them what they want and need. That's part of our job as
Yeah.
leaders, right? That's a big piece of what we do. And I think too, another one that people miss when they're talking to their teams, and I'd love your thoughts on this because I know you work across multiple platforms, are that people like receive information differently. So there's kinetic learners, which need to be active. There are visual, and then there are auditory. And if you're sitting there with a visual person and you're yakking at them, it's going in one ear and right on out the other, and it's nothing good is happening there. And vice versa. So how do you work with the different learning styles?
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you brought this up, right? Because not only have I noticed this in with my team, but I extended it with my clients with the podcasting, because people listen and take in different information different ways. And so one of the things that I did in the beginning is I tried various different ways, like audio, voice messages, right? Or WhatsApp text messages, and then doing videos for them. And I found that most of my team understand video. They're visual people. And so anything that I do moving forward is all done on videos. Even our SOPs are videos, right?
Oh, I
And
like
so,
that.
yes. And so this way, if there is anyone that comes on board that is all about the audio, they can still listen to the videos,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
so
Yeah.
different ways. Same with podcasting. This is why I say to people, when you do podcasting, do video, because you can do audio, you can turn it into text, you can have, all these different ways that people can absorb information. So why not just do videos? So I feel like
Right.
that way to kind of move forward with your team in your business and just implement videos throughout.
I agree completely. And don't make them really stupid either. Like I go into so many businesses and you turn on like the like welcome video or whatever and it's just awful and you're like, who came up with this? Like it's like a very boring 6-year-old came up with. I don't know, like I don't like the world's most boring 6-year-old came up with this. Like it's awful, and you want to make sure that your videos are engaging and will actually stimulate the brain and get the proper brain chemicals going, right? Like that's what we want. We want the right things to happen in people's minds. So that's another thing that I think I want to hit on when it comes to integrity too is we because people somehow are missing this when it comes to not only their internal communication but their communication with their clients. Don't say and do things that are going to potentially be offensive or rude.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So,
Yeah, and sometimes it's accidental, right? Like I want to give a lot of grace on this. A lot of times it's accidental. So we need to, before we are speaking to the humans, we need to learn more about them. We need to think more universally about the design of our communication. So I'd love to get some of your thoughts on that about not accidentally or even purposefully being rude or controversial in your communication, both with your team and with your clients.
now, there's one thing that I tell all my clients, because they also come to me about how do you be authentic and at the same time make sure you're not offending anybody. And so the rule I have is, don't talk about politics, don't talk about sports, and don't talk about religion. Those three main topics can really, really be controversial. And if you're building a business, or if you're building that integrity, keep away from those three topics, because it will offend people. Right
Oh
now,
my God, the sports thing is so true. People are so sensitive about their sports, like
yeah,
way too sensitive. I love sports too, but dude, it's a game. Calm down. But people get so aggressive. My family has ended up in fistfights over football. That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
listen to this, Catherine. So I used to be a police officer, right? Back in the day. And I used to police these football grounds in London, in UK, and talk about football hooliganism. Oh my goodness. I'm like, it's a game. It's a bunch of guys around with a football in the field. Like, come on, seriously. But people,
So aggressive. Oh my God. But it's true. But yeah, but you're right. Avoid certain things, right?
yeah.
And then also, so this is one that cracks me up. And people think that this only pertains to one group, and it does not. So if people have preferred terminology, like whether it's a religion, whether it's an ethnic group, a cultural group, whatever it is, LGBTQ, whoever it is, using said preferred terminology does not hurt you as a human being, does not cause you any malfunction. So please use the said preferred terminology. Again, manners. Like I wouldn't, if you came up to me and like we're just meeting for the first time and I told you, hi, my name's Catherine, I prefer that people call me Kat, and you go, no, that's not your name, I'm not going to do that. That would just be insane, right? Like nobody would ever do that.
You know what?
Who gets
People
that aggressive?
people have done that to me, right? No, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm like standing there going, but that's what I want to be called. So I don't understand the issue.
Yeah, like, but that's what I like. What's wrong with you? but that's my point. Like, it's so silly. Like, it's why? If this is whatever the reason is for the terminology, and there's all different things, right? There's all different, whether it's neurodiversity, disability, race, whatever it is. There's all different reasons for preferred terminology. Just use it. Just use it. And some groups, now it can get complicated. I want to give some grace because some groups it's divisive. Like they'll like it. Some people want this terminology, some people want this terminology. So then when you're guessing it's okay, just make sure you're not saying something that's rude. But use preferred terminology, please. Like it's not hard, folks. Like it's just not. And digging your heels in on this just makes you look like a jerk.
Yes, it does. And do you know what? Sometimes it can get confusing as to how to approach someone. But I find that simply just asking them and saying, you know what, I might be ignorant, right? But please excuse me, right? How is it that how would you like to be called? How should I approach you?
Yes.
Let them just tell you, and that's it. It doesn't need to be a big deal, and just go with that.
Right, exactly. It's so simple. It's so freaking simple, folks. And we actually already do it with a lot of things. But then we skip the groups that we feel like it's okay to marginalize. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Absolutely. But again, it is just about asking people what they feel comfortable with, right? If you're unsure, there's nothing wrong with asking. But I feel like people are afraid how it's going to make them look. Oh my goodness, I'm going to offend them by asking. No, you will offend them
No.
even not asking and say the wrong thing.
Just ask. Just be uncomfortable. And I think that we do need to make it a lot more public that it's okay to ask these things.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just like I've had, I do a lot of podcasting and such, as you well know, and I've had hosts that were very nervous with coming to me and going, okay, now is it okay if I ask you about this? Is it okay? I'm like, heck yeah, that's what I'm here to talk about. Let's do it. Let's get personal. Let's whatever. And I understand that not everybody's going to have the same reaction as me, and that's cool. But it's okay to ask. Like let's just put that out there. It's okay to ask, and everybody needs to get on. And actually, I'm going to say this: most people I know are on board with the idea of asking. That's a preferred thing. But we do need to create, again, back to the psychological safety, the psychological safety that it's okay for people to ask. So
Yeah.
if people have preferences of any kind, I mean, if even just workplace communication, work styles, that kind of thing, it needs to be okay to ask, and we need to get to that point that it's okay.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's the way that I will go with anything, right? Even if you're unsure about anything and everything, you always ask. Don't offend. Don't just assume, right? Anything,
Right.
ask whatever. Even like with your team. If you're unsure, if I said something that was unclear, then ask me. Let me know. I can't correct it unless you tell me that I said something completely wrong, right? And
Right.
it happens, right? You make mistakes, you say things, right, that you didn't intentionally mean, and it's come across the wrong way because it's been interpreted in something completely different. And so again, making sure that you give people the space to say, hey, if I said something wrong, then just let me know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you have to respond in curiosity. And that's hard. And actually, Jason just brought up in the comments, he was at a talk that I recently gave, and I talked about my method for how to respond in curiosity and get those hormones and all going in the right direction. So when somebody says something that makes us feel fearful or upset or anything like that, the immediate thing that happens is our our body starts to respond to that biologically, and then our ego mechanism kicks in, and then everything that comes out of our mouth is super confrontational, and it's not helpful. It's not productive at all. It doesn't help anything. So the way that I get myself back into that proper mindset is that I spent literally 5 minutes one day, only 5 minutes, teaching my brain that when I either tap my foot on the ground or I touch the arms of my chair, that means that I'm safe. I have food in the pantry. I have shelter over my head. Nobody is coming to attack me. I am okay. And so now in the moment when I feel that like you feel it in your neck, right? You just feel that like, ooh, I'm about to have to like fight this person or run or something, like whatever your natural instinct is, right? And for me, it's fight. I'm definitely a fighter. I can now, like, I don't want to start swinging at people, right? So Just walk around with some gloves in my bag, pull them out, strap them on, like, all right, we're going to have to do this now. Come on. No, but instead, I tap my foot real quick, or I touch the sides of my chair, and immediately the chemicals in my brain switch off that were causing like that adrenaline, dopamine shut off, and yeah, I can feel it. It just goes. My brain's like, oh, okay, we're all right. And then I take a very quick breath, and then I ask a question. Like, can I ask you what prompted you to say that? Or, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about that? And that responding and curiosity helps keep the integrity to me. It helps keep that psychological safety, and let's just talk this out because we're two humans and I might have just received something all kinds of wrong. You know what I mean? Or they may have a legitimate reason to have said that and I need to hear that because I might need to adjust, that kind of thing. So we need to do that. And yes, bond, that came from a friend of ours. Be open, not defensive. Andy
Oh,
Cook says that. And I love
I
that. So bond.
definitely, yes, bond. Oh my goodness. So this was something that I went through last week. In fact, I was on a podcasters cruise, right? And I set myself a challenge. I have not shared a room with anybody or my space with anybody for about 8 years, right? And so I thought, let me go and I'm going to share a room with somebody. Let's see how this goes.
You're very brave.
Right? Then I shared a room with someone I didn't know. I just met on the cruise, right? And so we found out we were very different people, complete opposites, right? She was super OCD. Everything has to have its place. Everything needs to be put away in drawers, in cupboards. And I'm like, no, I just take it out of my suitcase. I just live out of my suitcase, right? And she was really OCD. No, that's gonna mess up the entire room. We're gonna put everything in drawers. And I'm all about convenience. I'm like, I just like stuff on the table I can grab and grab.
Right.
No, needs everything clean. Right? There should be nothing on the table. I'm like, wait, what? It's a table. You're meant to put stuff on there. It really tested my patience. And I was like, okay, I've got to figure this out because if we hit the roof, then neither of us are going to have a good trip. And so I was like, well, you know what? Let me take a step back. If she needs to have that control, let her have that control. Let her have it. Right? If she wants to clear up after me and put my stuff away, let her do it. All I was doing on the trip was, where's my mascara? Where's my lipstick? Where's my shoes? Wait, right? And so by taking that step back and letting her have the control and you being okay with somebody else having control, you don't need to have control all the time, allowed us to have an open conversation. Let me bond with her, find out what she's all about, what her background is, and have a better understanding of who we both are. And we both had a fantastic time, and we're like besties and doing
See?
together.
See, it works. It really does. It's a brilliant, and everybody has their different style. Like you had a different style of handling it than I do, but that same idea works. And keeping that very curious communication to me is so very paramount to integrity and ethics and to just making sure that we're all functioning properly because we have the same mission, right? A lot of times as humans, like you had the same mission, both of you did to come on
Yeah,
this cruise, have a good time, and learn some stuff. That's it.
right.
That's our mission. So ultimately, how we get there is flexible, but that's the mission. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
I did when I was doing this talk at the HR Disruptor Summit this past month. One of the things that I did was I said, all right, we're going to talk about a controversial topic real quick. Like we're gonna like I'm going to mention it. We're not going to get into a discussion about it, but I'm going to
Right.
mention it. And they're like, okay. I said, okay. So on when it comes to the issue of transgender children and how to treat them, you have
Mm,
one side, and they're very concerned about how the hormones of treatments will affect the kids, and what or removing hormones, what that will do. They're very worried about the effects of all of that. The other side is worried about the mental health and well-being of the children from that perspective, and they're concerned about suicidality and this type of thing. I said, and it was funny because at each point, different like different people in the room were nodding, right? Like, oh yes, that is what I'm concerned about. And I said, what I'm hearing is that everybody's concerned about children and everybody loves children and wants them to be okay. I said, so the mission is to take care of kids and to help them to grow up, healthy and happy and all of this. That's the mission. There's just two different ideas of how to get there. I said, so when you come at it from we have the same goal, the conversation becomes really different. It becomes really, really different. And I feel like there's just a big decompression. Kind of like what happened with you. Like you're looking at this woman, like, why is she touching my stuff? Like, can you please not be so extra and just go over there and leave my stuff in my bag? But then when you stopped and you just like took a breath, it was like, all right, you know what? Nope, I'm still gonna have a good time.
Exactly.
Mission alignment.
Exactly. So it's about understanding what the end goal is, understanding that we're all there to get to that same goal, but we're all going to have different perspectives. We've all had different backgrounds. We come from different places, different journeys. And so the goal is going to be, or the journey there is going to be a little bit wonky for all of us. It's not going to be a straight line because we come from different backgrounds and experiences, right? And so you being able to be aware that if something is making you feel a certain way, what is it? What's going on? Is more to do with you than about them.
That's right.
And then you have to take a step back, right? As much as I wanted to go in and be like, pow, don't touch me, pow, put it back, right? You can't do that, right? Even if that's what you're thinking. But and then you got to kind of, okay, let's have a conversation. What's going on here? Because this is really upsetting me, but why is this upsetting me? Mm-hmm. And then just moving forward and having that conversation.
Right. I think the biggest part of integrity in communication is breaking the ego mechanism. And that's it's a natural mechanism that we all have inside of us that's actually designed to defend us. But a lot of times we don't actually need it because we're safe, right? And so we can just turn it off and go, no, thank you, brain, but no thanks. I'm good. I got this. I'm gonna just learn a little bit more about this. Our brain needs to be right. But what's funny about that is by sending out that ego mechanism, a lot of times it stops us from learning the things that would actually make us more correct. So it's actually ends up being kind of counterproductive. So turning that off and having real communications, learning from other people, universal design, psychological safety, and just really getting curious and, like you said, talking things out, you and the other person, that's so paramount. And I think without that, we can't have solid communication or effective communication.
No, absolutely. But the one thing I guess I learned was more about myself than her, right? How much patience do I have? How do I need to language my wording to actually get through to the other person? What does she need to hear from me? And sometimes it is just about just let go. Just freaking let go. You don't need to fight this.
No. No. Like you don't. And there's so many times as leaders in companies that we forget that we're so just focused on getting where we need to go that we forget, oh wait, yeah, this just really isn't that serious. Like getting to the final thing is the important thing, but we can let all this other stuff be its own thing. And that also opens you up to inclusion and letting people work in ways that are effective for them, not just for you, because they matter too. So I think as we're kind of wrapping up this episode, I'd love to hear from you, kind of your final thoughts. And yes, it can be exhausting, Jason, I agree. But it's also wonderful. And once you get there, then you realize how much easier you've made your life. Like how much easier was your cruise when you weren't combating this woman? It was just, it's so much better. Yeah.
There's no kind of emotional kind of things going on in your head. You can just come and go, easy peasy, like, you felt good to go back to your cabin, right? You didn't kind of like, there's someone else there in my space. You feel good, and you don't want that hanging over you. Like, you want to make sure the trip is fun for you and for everybody else. You don't want to kind of cause that animosity either.
Yeah.
And like I said, the number one thing is you learn more about yourself. right? Be aware of yourself. What's going in your head? What's your trigger points, right?
Mhm.
How do you need to combat, you know, what someone else is doing or saying? And so the minute you are able to direct that and understand what's happening with yourself, then you're able to communicate so much better with various different people because you know exactly
Yes.
how to direct the conversation.
Exactly. Be proactive, not reactive. Those are two very different things. That's a huge part of keeping integrity in any kind of communication. And this from our friend Andy Cook, shared by our friend Jason Hopper, bond, be open, not defensive. That. And with that, I want to thank you again so very much for having joined me today, Kay. Please tell everyone where they can find you and all of your brilliance.
Oh my goodness. So you can go to makeyourmarkagency.com. You can find all the information there. You can find me on LinkedIn, Kay Suthar, on Twitter, on Facebook. You can go on any platform, even TikTok. I've started TikTok. Go to Kay Suthar. You can find all information there.
I love it. And I'm the same way. You can find me at kmccordspeaking.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can come. I'm now on TikTok too. I have been inspired. I am on TikTok, Kat the HR Titan. Come hang out with me there. But thank you all so very much for making this a wonderful season. We will be back the first week of January. Thank you, Kay, for joining us. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, happy whatever it is that you're into. Bye.